I was asked the other day why I talk about suicide, why it's something that I'm not shy about, why it's something that I want to enter
Alrighty,
into the
so the other day I
cultural
was sitting there watching TV and I got a
zeitgeist.
message from
I want people to talk about suicide for many different reasons, and they're varied and they're personal and they're cultural and they're social. But I want to just give you three easy reasons why I believe we need to talk about suicide more than we are right now. Why it needs to become something that we can all discuss openly and freely, and why I think that is. So let's dive in and let's see what happens. Three reasons why I believe we should talk about suicide. Let's dive right in and see what happens. Welcome to Mark My Words. Mark My Words is the story of my journey from a place where I was shattered to where I could live again. All right, the three reasons, and I'm going to give them to you right from the get-go, although I do hope you listen to the whole thing. Stigma, we got to reduce it. There is a complicity of silence, and this was expressed to me very beautifully on the weekend. The more that we ignore the subject, the more we become complicit in the fact that 9 people this week in Australia will end their lives. The third reason is we can't fix a problem if we don't understand it. And if we don't talk about it, how can we possibly understand it? There you go. 3 reasons. Thanks very much. I'll catch you. Just joking. All right. So let's break this down just a little bit further because we need to. So my first reason is around stigma. At the weekend, I went to probably one of the most unbelievable workshops I've ever been to in my life. It was by an organization called Roses in the Ocean. And they spoke about, well, the workshop was around storytelling around suicide, how to tell your lived experience story of suicide safely for you and for others, and how you can do it in an effective way. Unbelievable opportunity to be around my peers. When it comes to suicide, it's not like there's a club that you can join. When you've tried to attempt to take your life, you're in a very exclusive club that's becoming less and less exclusive all the time. But it's not like we have meetings and sit around and say, hey, I'm a suicide survivor, and my name is Mark. We don't do that. We tend to say nothing. I mean, I've worked in jobs for years where people never even guessed that suicide had ever been part of my life. That wouldn't have even occurred to them to think to ask the question because I appeared so normal, so much like anybody else. It's not like we wear a badge, suicide survivor. Maybe we should. I don't know. Why don't we? Stigma. My daughter, when she asked about the first job that she ever applied for, when do I talk about my mental illness? On the job application. And I had to say, you don't. Could you imagine going into a job interview where one of your critical skills was the fact that you were a suicide survivor? And I mean, that's a massive thing to beat suicidal ideation, to beat suicidal behavior is no small thing. And the people that have survived suicidal behavior generally are extraordinary people in my experience, especially if they get the chance to share about their story. And yet, if you put that on a job application, there is no way that you're getting the job. No way at all. Unless, of course, your company is very progressive. And I did attempt to apply for a position, didn't work out very well for me, but one of the prerequisites was that you have a lived experience of mental illness so that you can understand the people that you'd be dealing with in the job. First and ever time I've ever seen that. And it was for a very specific role in a very specific organization. But in general, If you tell somebody that you're a suicide survivor, they're going to think a couple of things. They're going to think that you're weak. They're going to feel sorry for you, and they're not going to know how to talk to you. Do I talk about suicide? Can I talk about suicide? If I mention death, will they get upset? They'll be on eggshells around you because there is a stigma, a belief out there that people that have attempted suicide or live with suicidal ideation, have existed in that suicidal behavior space, that they are less than. Whereas my experience is the complete opposite. The people that I spent a weekend with, not all suicide survivors, um, not all people that attempted. Some were grievers, people that were grieving for people that committed suicide, some that just live with suicidal ideation, some that care for people. But there was something in that group that was so special to me, and it's something I'm going to carry for years. Just this conglomeration of strangers that have this linked experience of suicidality, suicidal behavior, grief through suicide, but just they were so connected and loving and accepting. And I've never seen anything like it. So if you don't believe there's stigma out there, there absolutely is. The second one, and this is a massive concept which I only just picked up the other day. I do this all the time. I go and speak to other people that talk about mental illness and suicide, suicidality, that sort of thing. And I always pick something up. And from this one guy, I picked up this thing, and it's just a simple sentence that he said, this complicity of silence. The more that we don't talk about suicide, the less that is going to be done about it. And if we're not talking about suicide, are we complicit in the deaths of the people that passed away today? 9 Australians. Today, 9, mainly men, will end their lives today. That's an insane tragedy for each of those people's entire communities. So talk about family, talk about extended family, talk about friends, families, acquaintances, workplaces. You're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of people every day that are affected by suicide. And yet we don't talk about it. Somebody came up with they were talking about how once upon a time wearing seatbelts was anathema. They said to Australians, you need to wear seatbelts. And everybody went, that's ridiculous. Doctors would come out and say, oh, seatbelts cause injuries, and the people would fight against it. But now it's just it's a fact of life. You wear a seatbelt, save your life. He talked about the fact that suicide should be dealt with in the same way. And I had the thought, wouldn't it be interesting after every public holiday when they do the road tolls, if right after that they did the suicide tolls, how many people have died by suicide today? Would that change our perspective? If it was thrust in our face, if it wasn't just something on some random podcast, maybe a random news article that 9 people today in Australia will end their lives. What if it was forefront? What if it was a statistic that we had to deal with every single day instead of being able to hide it because of the stigma and our complicity of silence? I so love that expression. We are complicit by the fact that we aren't advocating strongly enough for people that are in suicide prevention. The government released this massive suicide prevention strategy with $0 behind it. And yet they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on our roads each year. I know it doesn't equate. I know it's not the same thing. But when you think of it like this, a car accident can happen to anybody. Depression, anxiety, sense of failure, suicidal behavior can happen to anyone. Don't have to be broken to be suicidal. A guy was talking the other day about the fact that a family member had committed a crime and he was ashamed. There was no mental illness there, just something infected his life. He didn't know how to deal with it. He ended his life. Suicide can happen to anybody, just like a car accident. Last, and not to say least, there's no particular order here. We can't fix a problem if we don't know what it is. If we don't understand a problem, how can we possibly fix it? When Australia was first forced to wear seatbelts, when car manufacturers were first forced to do safety regulations in their cars, people were like, why do we need to do this? I've been driving my car for so long without a seatbelt and I'm still alive. Well, we didn't understand, and we needed to be educated on what the problem was, what it actually is, how many people it's actually affecting. Now, when you think about the car accidents versus suicides, why are we not crying in the streets about the numbers of people that are living with suicide? And yet, if there's a pothole in our street, people will lose their minds. Why is this pothole not fixed? Imagine if they didn't fix it. Imagine if they just went, it's a pothole. Which government would last if they decided to do that? No government would last. There's no way that they could last. So for me, it's about you can't fix the problem if you don't understand it. And most of us don't understand that most suicides are preventable. If we get information out there, if we let people know that they are truly not alone, which they feel when they attempt suicide, because I'm one of them. I've been there. I've tried to do it. Should make a t-shirt out of that. Been there, tried to do it, still here. The fact of the matter is that we don't, as a society, understand the problem. And most people don't understand that most suicides are preventable. We could stop them. Do you imagine that? Just going from 9 people a day, 9 men and women, 9 Australians, 9, there's no age in there. Some are teenagers, some are older, some are younger, some are middle-aged. It doesn't matter, but could you imagine if we just started putting those statistics out there, if we just let people know that, hang on, these suicides could have been prevented if these people had had proper education, understanding, and support. It seems like such a no-brainer when you first decide to truly look at it. But what does this random podcast in a little corner of Australia have any hope of changing the conversation around suicide? Why am I doing this? Why are you listening to this? It's because you understand, or are beginning to understand, that this preventable problem, we can do something about it. If there's anybody listening to this today and you've gone, there's nobody that cares about me, which I get messages like that quite a lot. You don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be alone. Yeah, I do. I do. I know what it's like to be locked in your own mind, swimming in darkness. I know what it's like. I've been there. Believe me. But the thing of it is you are not alone. And I promise you, that as dark as things are at this moment, give it a day, sometimes give it a couple of hours, give it a day, give it a week, the problem will seem less bad. Why do I not say better? Because it won't feel better, but it will feel less bad. There's an analogy that I use. When somebody's in suicidal ideation, it's like that they're drowning in the ocean. And if somebody's drowning in the ocean, the first thing that you have to do is get their head above water. Okay? It doesn't matter where their car is parked. It doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter what happened after. All that matters is that you get your head above water. And once you get your head above water, there's hope. Now, for me, getting my head above water was realizing that I needed to be patient. Yes, I was in the middle of the ocean. Yes, I was getting tossed by waves. But everything passes. Waves will pass. And if you have the strength, sometimes the hope, and this is a real analogy for me. I was out swimming past the breakers one time, got caught in a little rip, got taken out far, and was exhausted because I'd been swimming hard. I'd been body surfing, going in and out, and I was hurting. And I put my arm up and I realized that it was late in the afternoon. The lifeguards had gone. So what did I do? I just got my head above water. I looked for the waves coming in. I looked for currents. I looked for rips that were going in. I just stayed patient. I floated, conserved my strength, pushed myself in a little bit as soon as I can. A little bit of education. I knew a lot about the waves. I knew a lot about surf. So I knew what not to do in a rip. I knew what not to do in certain circumstances. And that was just with a little bit of education. And that's what somebody that's going through suicide needs. They need to understand that at the moment, yeah, you're being crushed by waves, you're being tumbled, you feel like you're in a washing machine, but it will pass. Got to do a couple of things. Got to get your head above water. Sometimes that's just a matter of saying, whatever is in my head to do, I'm not going to do. I am not going to make a decision while I'm in this turmoil. Just get my head above water, look at the shore. Hey, the shore is still there. You can still get to it. You will get to it. It might take some time. It's going to hurt. But just that little bit of patience. And that's what I'm talking about with suicide prevention. If we can get this message out, because most people, when they end their lives, they're hopeless. That's all they can see. I have no other options except to do this. And again, just a little bit of education, a little bit of, hey, have you done something to be kind to yourself? Have you challenged the thoughts in your head? Have you reached out to somebody? Have you spoken to somebody? Have you just turned to somebody that you love and trust and just said, man, I'm doing it tough today? Little things that we could train people to do, that we could talk to people to do, that we could put in the vocabulary. So I'll wrap it up there. The three things, three reasons to talk about suicide and suicidal behavior is stigma. We need to decrease it. Second, I don't want to be complicit in the death of anybody else. When my friend Dan died, I don't know if he knew that I was a suicide survivor. But if I have another mate like Dan that's contemplating taking his life, I want him to know that I know how he's feeling, that I've been there. I will not be complicit. I will not be silent. And the third thing is that we can't, as a society, as people, fix a problem that we don't understand. So let's understand it. And how do we understand it? We understand it by talking about it, by educating people, by making it a topic that's not taboo. I really want to thank you for listening to this one. I wasn't going to do a long one today. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I'm super glad that we've had the discussion that we've had today. Please hit me up in the comments. If you ever do and I don't respond, bear in mind that I am very, very old and I am bad at technology and I am doing this by myself. So the other day I found like a month's worth of messages in this weird place that I never go to. So I'm going to keep trying to track that and do better. But please like, share, subscribe if you like what we're doing. Hey, one of my t-shirts, mark my words, you can see on the back, maybe Mark My Words podcast. They're available, markmyshirts.com. All the details below. Have a great week. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Mark My Words. I'd like to thank my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And I can't forget the band Adelaide, who allows us to use their song as our theme.